Welcome to Morning Maths. It's day 3. Get your pencil and paper. You can copy my workings if you need to, or do your own workings if you want to. As you can see, Year 3 questions 1 to 5, Year 4 questions 1 to 10, Year 5 questions 6 to 15, Year 6 questions 11 to 20. Go further if you can. Let's go on to day 3. I'll cover up the work, just showing the Year 3 work to start with. You can fast forward the video if you're going to start later, if you're in one of the older year groups and you're going to start later. So, number 1, what is the value of the 5? Value of the 5 in 465. 465. I'll put my hats on. Units or ones, tens, hundreds. We can see it's worth 5 units, also known as 5 ones. 5 units. In number form, very simply just 5. Pause the video if you need more copying time. I'll move on to question 2. Question 2. 894 plus 433. 894 plus 433. There's our column addition. Make sure it lines up down the right side, which is this side. Down the right, column addition. 4 plus 3 is 7. 9 plus 3 makes 12. 2 carry the 1, make sure it says 12. 8 plus 4 is 12, plus a little 1 is 13. The big answer, 1,327. Plus makes things bigger. Let's move on to question 3. 743, take away 251. As I always say, if you're having trouble keeping up with the copying, because I write quite fast using the mouse, you'll need to pause the video so you can catch up. So here's our takeaway. 743 take away 251. 3 take away 1, that's 2. 4 take away 5, we can't do, don't be fooled by that. If you've got 4 sweets, you can't give your friend 5. So we need to do some borrowing. That's what we do with takeaway if it doesn't work. 6 goes down to 7. 1 comes over here. 14 take away 5 is 9. 6 take away 2 is 4. We get 492. Takeaway makes things smaller. So we started with 743. We took something away. Now we've only got 492, which is less than 743. I'll quickly check my answer, because I get things wrong sometimes when I don't check. So that's number 3 done. Pause the video if you need more copying time. Question 4, 8 times 10. In year 3 we've done our 8 times table and our 10 times table. 8 times 10. I was singing 8s this time, that's the harder one, but I know you can do that. 8 and 16, 24 and 32, 40, 48 and 56. Then 64 and 72, 80. Counted that on my fingers, and the answer was 80. Counted up to 10 fingers using my 8s, and it was 80. Now I move on to number 5. This is 10 divided by 2. 10 divided by 2. Dividing is sharing. So it's like you've got 10 sweets, and you're sharing them between 2 people. 10 divided by 2. Just get my sweets, purple sweets, bigger than that. There they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10, they're supposed to be sweets, alright? They're sweets. So I'm going to share them between these people. I'm going to share them between this blue person over here and this red person over here. So 10 shared between 2. So he can have 1, he can have 1. 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 He can have that one, and he can have that one. So I've shared out to 10 between 2 people fairly, and you can see each person has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They both have 5 because the answer is 5. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. Let's move on to the Year 4 level work. Questions 6 to 10. Year 3 might continue. Year 5 may well be warming up on this Year 4 work. Question 6. The value of the 8 in 4,835. So we want this 8, put my hats on, units, also known as ones, tens, hundreds. Next one would be thousands, but I've already got what I need, it's 800s. So the answer to number 6 is 800s. That's how you spell hundreds if you're not sure, 800s. In brackets, the digits say 800 as well. 800s, which is of course 800. That's number 6. Let's move on to number 7. This is addition, column addition. 4, 5, 6, 7 plus 4, 5, 6, 7. 4,567. Okay, so hats on if you want to. As you can tell, I sometimes put mine on and I sometimes don't. I did this time. 7 plus 7 is 14. Little 1 and big 4, make sure it says 14, not 41. 7 plus 7 is 14. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus a little 1, 13. 10 plus 10, 5 plus 5 is 10, plus a little 1, 11. 4 plus 4, 8, plus a little 1, 9. That was quite easy addition, but there was a bit of carrying every time. Carrying a 1 every time. Let's see. That's 14, that's 12 plus 1 is 13. Just checking over what I've done to make sure it's right. Plus makes things bigger, and the answer was bigger than what we started with, because that's what usually happens when you plus, when you add. Let's move on. Pause if you need to copy. Otherwise, I'm moving on to question 8. 2,349. I'll show you how not to line this one up, shall I? Don't line this up like this. Don't line this up like this, because that's not right. Instead, line it up like this. Line it up down the right. Okay, so always very careful with your lining up. If you line a question up wrong, you'll get it wrong. Whatever you do, you'll get it wrong. 2,349 minus 732. 9 minus 2, that works, that's 7. 4 take away 3 is 1. 3 take away 7, can't actually do that. 3 take away 7, borrow from this 2, which becomes a 1, then there's 1 here. 13 take away 7 is 6, and 1 take away nothing is 1. But just don't forget about this 1 here, it's actually the most significant digit, the most important digit in the whole question, because it's worth 1,000, isn't it? I've got no room for my hats up the top, I'll put them at the bottom. Units, tens, hundreds, thousands. They're more like feet this time, aren't they? But because that 1 is in the thousands column, it's actually the most significant and the biggest digit that is in this whole question. Once we've finished, 1,617 is the answer, because minus makes this smaller. 1,617 is smaller than 2,349. Pause if you need to. On to question 9. 2 methods for question 9, because multiplication. 2, 3, 4 times 5. I'll do grid and I'll do standard. So let's do the grid. 234 smashes up into 200, 30 and 4. That's why it's called 234, because it's 200, 30 and 4. We're going to times it by 5. Okay. Pause if you need time to copy. I feel like doing the next bit in purple. 5 times 2 is 10. Place these 2 zeros. Next section, 5 times 3, 5, 10, 15, that's 15. Place this 0. And at the end, 5 times 4 is 20. 5, 10, 15, 20. We have 3 answers which we need to add up. You might add them up in your head, but to be extra careful, I'm going to add them up with column addition. We made 3 answers, but we need to add them up to get a final answer. 1,170. I'm going to check that by doing standard method and see if I get the same. 234 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. You saw that in the previous method there. 5 times 3 is 15. But because it's 3 tens, it's 150. That's that 150 from there. So 5 times 3 is 15, but we add the 2 in this method, and it goes to 17. 5 times 2 is 10, or 5 times 200 is 1,000. That's where that 1,000 is from the other method. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. In this method, you basically do your adding up as you're going along, using the carried ones. That's why you don't have to add up on the end when you do the standard method. So once you get used to the standard method, it's usually quicker, but you can use either. As long as you're getting it right, use the one that you like best. Pause if you need to. We go on to number 10. Number 10, 413. It says divide 413 by 3. 413 divided by 3. Bus stop for division in year 4. How many 3's fit into 4? Well, here's 4 little dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many times can you see 3? Well, I can see 3 there. Once. I can see 3 once. And look, little 1 remaining. 11. Do some more dots for the next one. How many 3's in 11? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 dots. There's 3. Well, there's another 3. There's another 3. There's no more 3's. 1, 2, 3. There's 3 3's fit into 11. 3 3's fit into 11. And you can see the little 2 left over. That's your remainder. Remainder 2. How many 3's in 24? I'll sing this one. I'll sing my 3's up to 24, and the answer will be on my fingers. So it's called division facts. How many 3's in 24? 3, 6, 9, 12 and 15, 18, 21 and 24. I've sung that. I looked at my fingers, and my fingers tell me it's 8, because there's 3 fits into 24 8 times. So the answer is 138. Pause if you need to. That's year 4 done. Move on to year 5 level work. Year 4s might wish to continue. We'll have year 5s doing this. We'll have year 6s doing this, of course. Warming up. Number 11. Value of the 9, this is a big number now, in 9 million, I've said it already, haven't I, really? 9,811,614. Put my hats on anyway. Units, tens, hundreds. We're going to get big hats this time. Thousands. Next one is tens of thousands, TTH. Next one is hundreds of thousands, HTH. And then M for millions. What's the value of that 9? 9 millions. 9 millions. In digit form, you can just copy the 9 and put zeros to the end, and it will say 9 million. So 2 answers. The purple one is the digits answer, 9 million, all in numbers, digits, and then we have the words answer, 9 millions. Both correct. 2 answers. For this you only need one of them, to be honest. I just want you to understand there's 2 versions of this answer. Let's move on to number 12. 0.8 plus 0.8. Oh, it's on red. I'll keep going on red. 0.8 plus 0.8. Well, 8 times 2 is a bit like 8 times 2, this, isn't it? 8 plus 8 is 16, or 8 times 2 is 16. But don't forget the decimal point. 0, 0 and 1 is 1.6. So the answer to that is 1.6. Pause if you need more time. I'll move on to, that was of course question 12. Always put my question numbers on. I'll move on to question 13 next. Question 13. 10, take away 7.23. There's a little problem here, because this number doesn't have decimals, and this number does have decimals. So what I like to do is get that 10, which is bigger than 7 and a bit. 10 is bigger than 7 and a bit, isn't it? 10 sweets is more than 7 and a bit sweets. But 10 is going to need a decimal point. And I think 1, 2 decimal places. 10.00. Exactly the same as 10, just looks a bit different. 10.00. Now I can line up my decimal point, which you always do in subtraction if there is a decimal point. 7.23 will have to go 7.23. 7.23. So this is how you have to line up 10, take away 7.23. There'll become some borrowing in this question. 0 take away 3 we can't do. Go here, go all the way to the front. Goes down to a 0, then to 1. 10 goes down to a 9, then to 1. 10 goes down to a 9, then to 1. I find that year 5s are very good with this borrowing usually, as long as they're careful. 10 take away 3 is 7. 9 take away 2 is also 7. 9 take away 7, that's just 2. 0, make sure that is just 0, don't want to forget anything at the front. Okay, 10, point nothing, take away 7.23 is 2.77. One way of checking this, if you know your number bonds, 23 and 77 go together to make 100. And in this case, 23 hundredths and 77 hundredths go together to make another 1. That's just a little check if you know what I'm talking about with number bonds. Let's move on to question 14. This is multiplication in year 5. You can use the grid method if you want. I'm going to use a standard method here. 3,456 times 4. 4 times 6 is 24. Pause if you need time to copy down. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2 is 22. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 is 18. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. It got bigger because times usually makes things bigger. Not always, but usually it does. Okay, 13,824 is the answer. That's where the comma goes. Make sure it looks like a comma. That's where the comma goes, if you have one. 13,824. And we move on to number 15. Sometimes, like on number 15, you might find you can do a question in your head. I mean, I can do number 15 in my head. How many somethings in a something is divide? What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in my head, and I'm going to do it with the bus stop. So I've got to check. I think it's 1,000, because 5 fits into 5,000 1,000 times. But I'm going to use the bus stop as well. How many 5s in 5? 1. How many 5s in 0? 0. How many 5s in 0? 0. How many 5s in 0? 0. It is 1,000. If you can do stuff in your head, I find it's much better to do it in your head and do it on paper, and then you have a double check. Because maths is all about accuracy. Some people think it's all about speed, but accuracy is the most important thing, getting things right. Let's move on to year 6. Last section. I doubt we've got any year 3s left. We might have some year 4s left, I don't know. Number 16, value of the 9 in 98.76. These questions just can be a bit tricky because you've got to get your hats right. You've got to know the units comes before the point. Oh, it's tens, isn't it? 9 tens. In other words, 90. 9 tens. 9 tens, 90 is the answer. That's what that 9 is worth in 98.76. Let's go on to number 17. Pause if you need time to copy. Number 17, this is adding 3 numbers. 456, 357, 768. They're all 3-digit numbers, which makes the lining up easy. Addition, you can just add 3 numbers in the same way that you would add 2, really. 6 plus 7 is 13. Then you plus 8, which is 21. Just be careful with your adding. Use a ruler if you need to. Whatever year group you're in, count along a ruler if you need to, if it's more accurate. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 6 is 16, plus 2 is 18. 8 carried a 1. 4 plus 3 is 7, and another 7 is 14. Don't forget the little 1, goes to 15. Plus makes things bigger. The number we started with definitely got bigger. Became 1,581. Just have a little check of this. Don't want to get anything wrong on a video or in a test or anywhere. That's number 17 done. We'll move on to number 18. Reduce again. Had that yesterday, didn't we? I think so. Reduce means take away. You want the biggest number at the top. 20,000, 7,650. Okay, biggest number at the top in take away. 20,000. Take away. This is how you don't line it up. Don't line it up like that. Instead, line it up like this. There's no decimals, and when there's no decimals, it should line up down the right. Okay? Line up down the right. 7,650. Right. There'll be lots of borrowing. When there's loads of zeros, you know there's lots of borrowing. 0 take away 0, actually, you don't need to borrow because 0 take away 0 is just 0. The borrowing's only going to start here when you try to do 0 take away 5 and you can't. All the way along to here goes down to a 1. I know year 5 and 6 are pretty good at this borrowing all the way across. And we're on 10 take away 5, which is 5. 9 take away 6, 3. 9 take away 7, 2. And just a 1 at the front. What is that? 12,350. Commas go 3 from the end if you have them. 12,350. Just checking over that. Pause if you need time to copy. And we'll move on to the next question. Number 19. This is actually what I call times tables in disguise. In fact, decimal times tables in disguise. 0.08. Similar to yesterday's question, you might remember. Times 7. So this is 8 times 7 in disguise. Well, 8 times 7 is 56. So it's something like 56. But we have a decimal place here, a decimal place here, and none over here. So we have 2 decimal places, which means we have to have 2 decimal places in the answer. We've only got 2 digits. So they're both going to have to be decimals, aren't they? In order to get 2 decimal places, they're both going to have to be decimals. So we go for 0.56, which is 0.56. Which means 0.08 times 7 is 0.56. Pause if you need to. I'm moving on to question 20. Question 20 is going to be a big old bus stop, because to half difficult numbers, you'll be wanting to use the bus stop. 7,654,872. One of the trickiest things with big numbers is just copying them correctly, so always check that. Always check that. See if you catch me out one day not copying something right, because I am guilty of that sometimes. Let's divide this by 2. How many 2's in 7? 2, 4, 6 is 3. Remainder 1. How many 2's in 16 is 8. How many 2's in 5? It's 2, 4 is just 2. Carried a 1. How many 2's in 14 is 7. How many 2's in 8? 2, 4, 6, 8, 4. I'm counting this all this on my fingers. How many 2's in 7? 2, 4, 6 is 3. Carried a 1. How many 2's in 12? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 is a 6. It should have got smaller because division usually makes things smaller. The answer is 3,827,436. Pause if you need to. I'm going to pop the answers on. Check that last one was 3,827,436. 3,827,436. So check that we got everything right. There's all the answers. You'll want to pause on here if you want to look over these. Please don't just look on the answers at the start, because the whole point of this maths is going through and doing the workings. That's what makes you learn, not just looking at questions and copying answers down. What's making you learn here is copying my workings if you need to, doing the workings yourself if you need to. The more times you do this, the more accurate you're going to get and the faster you're going to get. You're never going to be perfectly accurate. That's why you've got to check, and you can always get faster. That's why we do this daily maths. Speed and accuracy is the aim in the end. Accuracy being the most important thing. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you again next time.